fund manager, socialite, accused sex trafficker.
The alleged behavior shocks the conscience.
Federal prosecutors say Jeffrey Epstein created a network of dozens of victims, some as young as 14, who he sexually abused from 2002 to 2005 at his estate in Palm Beach, Florida, and mansion in New York City, where, according to court documents, the FBI seized a vast trove of lewd photographs of young-looking women or girls during a search over the weekend. Hundreds and perhaps thousands of sexually suggestive photographs. Epstein was arrested on Saturday when his private jet landed from Paris. He was charged with sex trafficking and conspiracy to traffic minors for the purpose of sex. Victims were initially recruited to provide massages, according to the indictment, which would become increasingly sexual in nature.
The victims, all underage girls at the time of the alleged conduct, were given hundreds of dollars in cash after each encounter, either by Epstein or by one of Epstein's employees.
The 66-year-old has palled around with some of the most powerful in politics and business, including Bill Clinton and President Trump. Today, he pleaded not guilty to the charges, which many, including some officials and alleged victims, say should have come more than a decade ago, after a similar investigation by law enforcement in Florida. But in 2008, Florida U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, now the current Secretary of Labor, brokered a secret last-minute deal. Epstein avoided more serious federal charges by pleading guilty to state charges, including soliciting prostitution from a minor. He had to spend 13 months in jail and register as a sex offender.
It's just such a shocking disparity between what he could have been charged with, what the evidence and the allegations seem to show, and what he was allowed to get away with.
During Acosta's confirmation hearing, he said it was the best deal given the evidence.
It was a broadly held decision.
The deal, criticized by many as too lenient, became the focus of an explosive Miami Herald report last year. Several of Epstein's alleged victims speaking out for the first time.
I was 16.
I was 16.
I started going to him when I was like 14 turning 15.
Today, the U.S. Attorney said investigative journalism significantly helped the case, and he called on new victims to come forward.
While the charged conduct
memo and release yesterday on Jeffrey Epstein, it left some lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for an American or foreign intelligence agency. The former Labor Secretary, who was Miami U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of his death?
Yeah, sure. Could I just interrupt? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
Sure. First, to back up on that, in February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I said, I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that. Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child porn is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day. To him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that. And the minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night. And that's it on Epstein.
Mr. President, on the tariffs first, you've said it is the deadline. What incentives?
The DOJ and FBI have now concluded there was no Jeffrey Epstein client list. What do you tell MAGA supporters who say they want anyone involved in Jeffrey Epstein's alleged crimes to be held accountable?
This administration wants anyone who has ever committed a crime to be held accountable, and I would argue this administration has done more to lock up bad guys than certainly the previous administration. And the Trump administration is committed to truth and to transparency. That's why the Attorney General and the FBI Director pledged at the President's direction to do an exhaustive review of all of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes and his death. And they put out a memo in conclusion of that review. There was material they did not release because, frankly, it was incredibly graphic and it contained child pornography, which is not something that's appropriate for public consumption. But they committed to an exhaustive investigation. That's what they did, and they provided the results of that. That's transparency.
Follow up on that,
Sure.
Caroline. Okay, so the FBI looks at the circumstances surrounding the death of Jeffrey Epstein. According to the report, this systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. So what happened to the Epstein client list that the Attorney General said she had on her desk?
Well, I think if you go back and look at what the Attorney General said in that interview, which was on your network on Fox
I've
News.
got the quote.
Go ahead.
John Roberts said, DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? And she said, it's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Yes, she was saying the entirety of all of the paperwork, all of the paper in relation to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes.
I saw your appearance at CPAC with Ben and with Ted Cruz, and one of the things that you alluded to, and this is something Donald Trump has talked about, the DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
So have you seen anything that you said, oh my gosh?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, we'll check back with you. Madam Attorney General, Pam, great to spend time with you.
Thank you so much.
Crimes. That's what the Attorney General was referring to, and I'll let her speak for that. But again, when it comes to the FBI and the Department of Justice, they are more than committed to ensuring that bad people are put behind bars.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this episode of Investigate Everything. I have been gone for a while, so I do apologize. Good to be back. Can't believe we're looking at this case again. But it never got looked at, so here we are. All right, so let me just get that thumbs up. It looks like you guys can hear me, so we are ready to go. Okay. The Epstein case. I think I just gave you a good overview of it. If you didn't know it, of course, you've been living under a rock if you don't. What's going on? Okay, so what's the recent? You all know it. All of a sudden, it's closed. Now, there was a client list. The list was talked about. Donald Trump talked about it. Everyone talked about it. Suddenly, it's gone. So, of course, this raises questions of why are they doing this? And you have to ask yourself, and these are good logical questions. Now, I've been going through all of the turmoil of this case in the last year, especially when the binder bimbos came out in February and showed off the Pam Bondi binders. And first and foremost, it's just the way this case is being treated is an utter, it's a total injustice to the survivors. I use the term survivor, not victims. One of the main ones who's now dead committed suicide in April 2025. That's Virginia Jeffery. Sorry, I'm mispronouncing her name. She committed suicide. She's was the main witness. She's the one that really kind of spearheaded this whole charge against Jeffrey Epstein. So why do we care? Well, I'll tell you why I care. You have your own reasons. The reason I care about this case so much is because, and I discussed this on JJ Carroll's Border Truths the other day. I care about this case because if we can't protect those who are weak or those who can't protect themselves against such monsters, even at the government level, or if we refuse to protect them, or at least give them some sort of justice, some sort of transparency, then what good are we? What's the point? What's the point of being the freest nation in the world with the best legal system? It's not perfect, but we do have the best legal system. But not only that, there's so many people who are still in danger. Witnesses, lawyers, everything like that. The sooner this stuff is made transparent, the better. Okay? The better for all of them, and the better for everyone else, because Donald Trump had said, you know, we're still talking about him. Of course we're still talking about him. Because literally everyone that this man was affiliated with, they seem to be the same people that told us to take vaccines, that told us to lock down, that told us to shut up and listen to the science. The same people that take our taxes, the same people who don't seem to think that the common man matters, to the point where they victimize them, the way Jeffrey Epstein and his clients victimized so many young women. Okay. That's why it matters. Okay, so Steve, we'll get to the comments in a minute. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the comments at the end or during a break, so I don't interrupt the flow. We also need to get to the bottom of it, because if it is being covered up, it's being covered up by, I would say, the highest levels of our government across administrations. Now, look, I'm an investigator. I'm a trained intelligence analyst. I leave room for the possibility that they're telling the truth. But see, that's not how we investigate things, as you know. We investigate things by starting with what we know. And that's really the point of these next few episodes. We're just going to break it down. When I went all the way back in the last 3 days, I was offline for the most part. I wasn't even really paying much attention to current events. And I just started going through the parts we know. So what do we know? We know that he most likely died. So I decided to start with his death. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to call up my my notes using Microsoft OneNote. So forgive me for that. But it seemed like the best way to get things organized. It's something I use for work as well. So let me just get this up here, and we will just start going through it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go all the way back to when Jeffrey Epstein got arrested, coming off his plane in New Jersey, to the present moment. Okay, so let's just share the screen now. And actually, before I share it, let me just welcome everyone back. You can see your comments are on the screen there, so I'll just read them off. Anti-corruption, my good friend Autumn, says, why is Trump simping for Epstein when releasing the files was one of his biggest campaign promises? I don't know. I don't know. It's not, I don't know if he's simping for anyone. What I do know is what we don't know. What we don't know is if, do they even have the files? I mean, unless any of us are in the DOJ and saw the files, we don't know if they have them or not. It's almost 99% sure they do, but we have to go on what we know. Okay, and we're not at the DOJ, so we have to look at what we've got in front of us. Doesn't mean I'm simping for them. It means we can't waste time wondering why. Then Same Day Girl says, I think the change in narrative is due to, let me just pop these up, it's easier for you guys. I think the change in narrative is due to its leverage. IMO, they used to pass the big, beautiful bill. Well, if we have proof of that, certainly share it. Okay, we have no proof of that. And so one thing, and you're right to explore these, these ideas and everything. I will warn you, just like I said in the summary, it's if you really want to get to the bottom of anything, if you really want to tear open a case, you really want to get transparency, I always say don't try to prove theories, try to disprove theories. Okay, but what I also say is always collect first, collect, and that's what I've been doing. And then sort, triage, sort, and put it in a timeline, and you'll be amazed at what points out at you. So are we going to solve anything tonight? No. But what I am going to do is share what I've been doing for, several hours, if not days, putting it into taking all this information, so much information, and going through it line by line. And so for now, we need to focus on the events around his arrest, Jeffrey Epstein's arrest, but especially around his death, because there are a lot of loose ends there that just kind of blew my mind when I saw them. And I went through the video painstakingly while I just got back from England. And so I was in my hotel room at night. I would just sit there and stare at those 10 hours. I'd do like an hour at a time, trying to find everything on there. Okay, so what do we know? Okay, let's start there. We know that Jeffrey Epstein most likely died. We know that Jeffrey Epstein was either murdered or committed suicide. Okay, the official account says he committed suicide. I don't believe that, but I'm not going to try to prove that he was murdered. I'm just collecting. What else do we know? We know that we were promised Epstein files. We know we were promised a client list by Pam Bondi's own words. She can twist it any way she wants. That's what she meant. Donald Trump said it on the campaign. His son did. The Alan Dershowitz, the lawyer for Jeffrey Epstein, who is top of his game as a lawyer. I don't care if you like him or not. He's a good lawyer. And he said, no, there's a client list. And I think he went to Epstein Island. Now remember, when you're going through the court documents, just because someone's mentioned at a party or in association, it doesn't mean that they were a pedophile. And I think that's very important for people to understand and express, because so much nonsense has been floating around these last 5 years about this. Someone will show a picture of Epstein and Trump at Mar-a-Lago. They'll show pictures of Bill Clinton and Epstein. Bill Clinton's are a lot more damning. But let's just kind of break down really quickly as a sidebar how it works in those circles. And how do I know this? I know this because I used to be a +1 in those circles. Not the Epstein circles, but in those elite circles. When I met my wife, she was rolling with, top of the food chain in Manhattan. We'd go to a lot of these high-end parties. We were on a list to go to screenings where there'd be very famous people there, very powerful people. And the way it works is, in a lot of cases, in a big place like Mar-a-Lago, first of all, that is a club. I've never been to Mar-a-Lago. Naomi was just there about 6 months ago for dinner, and she had dinner with a donor and some of his friends. But, Donald Trump wasn't there. It's a club he owns. We've been to Bedminster. Donald Trump popped in for a speech and he's gone. The parties that happen in these circles are arranged by professional, kind of like guest list people, I forget, one in particular that Jeffrey Epstein used was Peggy Siegel in New York City. We know Peggy Siegel. So when you end up at a party, you normally don't know anyone there. I'm not saying Trump knew or didn't know Epstein, but in those circles, they probably knew of each other. They probably had some interactions. There's some reporting about a real estate deal that they clashed on. But you typically don't know most of the people. You don't know your hosts half the time. Hosts don't know half their guests. It's a list that's arranged by these professional party planners, for lack of a better term. And if you look up Peggy Siegel, you'll see what I mean. There's an actual A-list. Funny sidebar is when I asked my wife, I said, well, how do you know if you're on the A-list? She goes, well, just by who's there and how good the movie is that you're going to screen. I go, how do you know when you're on the B-list? She goes, a little less interesting people. I said, well, how do you know, is there a C-list? She goes, yeah, that means NPR was there. So that's how that works. So let's just, I really would love to put it to bed when people show pictures of people at one of these parties. It's not like Mar-a-Lago is Donald Trump's cottage in the woods. It's a massive club, just like Bedminster and all the others. And so there's that. So, and I tell you that, again, not to shill for Donald Trump, but to give you the perspective so you don't pursue too many degrees down the rabbit hole of something like a picture of two people at a party. Now, let's talk about Bill Clinton. When you look at the photos of him and Epstein, it does seem a lot more intimate. There's lots of different photos. Them on the plane, they look like buddies. Okay, they look like very close buddies. He's getting on the plane with Maxwell and all the rest. Those are worth pursuing, I think, a little more. Plus, Bill Clinton and Hillary went to the island multiple times. That kind of stuff is worth pursuing because it's patternistic, and that's what you want to look for is the patterns. Okay, so that aside. So the reason why I started at the death, okay, is because let's think about it. When we go through the details, which are based on Bureau of Prison reports and the footage that they put out, and I'll explain that footage if you don't know. It's barely a sliver of what we can really see. It's because it takes a lot to get at someone in some of these facilities. And those kind of mistakes that were made during Epstein's death, which happened on August 10th or possibly August 9th, in his cell in the Metropolitan Correctional Center, part of the Bureau of Prisons in New York City. I mean, it's very highly secure. I have a lot of friends in corrections. I called a few of them to ask them. They're like, yeah, dude, that never happens. There's also the whole thing with the cameras going down. Now, we know the cameras went down. That's why we have such a crappy angle. But it's the timing of trying to get new cameras that I found really interesting, which is right on the Bureau of Prisons website. We're going to talk about that. And then there's just some activities going on in that footage that just seems strange to me. And I'm going to welcome your comments on that because I know as much as you. I have as much access as you. Okay. But probably the only difference is I may have put a little more time in the last 2 days on this thing. I don't know, maybe you put in a ton of time on it. And I'm going to miss things too that you're going to find. So that's why I welcome your comments. Any comment you put up there, that's not, if you put up a comment saying that the New World Order or some nebulous thing, I mean, I'm not going to make fun of you, but that's not going to really move the needle on investigation. So without much more rambling, let's get to it. All right, so I'm going to share my screen and let's make this happen. Here we go. Okay. All right, so this is my Microsoft OneNote. I do find this program really good to use because you can put a lot of stuff on one page. And as you know, when you're trying to do timelines and everything else, it's near next to impossible to get everything on a portrait-sized picture or something like that. So here's what we have. Here is the start of the timeline. Let's adjust this here for you guys. Okay. Hopefully everyone can see that. Just want to sync this screen. This is a new laptop and it is terrible, but we'll make it work. Okay, so July 7th, 2019, billionaire Jeffrey Epstein is charged in the sex trafficking of underage girls. You saw that in the video. I don't need to play that again. July 17th, 2019. Okay, so 10 days later. Attorney details new Epstein sexual misconduct claims. At least one young woman has accused Jeffrey Epstein of improper sexual contact while he was serving a 13-month jail sentence for state charges in 2008-2009. Just to review, as you all know, he got this sweetheart deal from Attorney General Acosta, who later became the Secretary of Labor for Donald Trump's first administration. But down there in Florida, he gave Epstein, it's not even a sweetheart deal. Epstein basically, during a 13-month sentence, basically was just sleeping in his cell at night, but he was allowed to go to an office that was set up by Acosta's attorneys, with his attorneys, and run his business, whatever he was doing, and then just have to report back in at nighttime. As some news pundit said, it was like he had his sentence was like 13 months of sleeping in a bad hotel.
Hey everyone, it's Naomi Wolf of Daily Clout. Have you ever wondered why your brain can feel foggy even when you're eating clean and exercising? It might not be burnout, it could be parasites. Groundbreaking research from Dr. Alan McDonald reveals a direct link between chronic parasite infections and neurological diseases such as multiple sclerosis. Parasites can cause inflammation, nerve damage, and long-term cognitive decline. More reason to do a full body cleanse at least once a year. The wellness company has a solution for you, ivermectin and mebendazole, the gold standard parasite solution now combined in one cleanse combo designed to eliminate harmful invaders and support your immune system naturally. Medical grade, not some trendy herbal gimmick. Fill out a quick intake form and you'll get a 3-month supply shipped straight to your door. Maha is officially here, and the wellness company is making hard to get medications digitally accessible so you can live your best life. Head to dailyclout.health and use code dailyclout to save $60 off plus free shipping on all orders. Cleanse your body today. Get rid of parasites today. Thank you.
So this is when, so more people came forward. And the timing is interesting because these are pretty old allegations, some of them. But all of a sudden, they all came at once. And I'm not saying the girls were making it up or looking for doing anything nefarious. I'm just saying the timing of these, or the timing of the release of these accusations is interesting. 6 months before COVID. No, I'm not going to go down the theoretical road, but you know what I'm getting at. And they could have brought these charges a lot earlier. Now, maybe some corrupt prosecutor was trying to wait out the statute. I don't know. I don't even know if there was a statute on sexual assault. I don't know. Okay, so July 23rd. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. So he got arrested. And then he got his sentencing hearing, and he was sent to the MCC. That's what we'll call it, the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan. Okay, and then he remained behind bars. Okay, as of July 23rd. Okay, now we're going to get into the details. Now, you've all heard he was on suicide watch. You saw the beginning of my video. NBC incorrectly reported that he was on suicide watch for like 2 weeks. That's not true. And so here's what we're going to do. Following is sourced from the June 23rd, 2023 DOJ, Department of Justice, Office of the Inspector General, Investigation Division's report number 23085 It was called the Investigation and Review of the Federal Bureau of Prisons Custody, Care, and Supervision of Jeffrey Epstein at the Metropolitan Correctional Center. Okay, so I do have the link. I'm going to put these all... Actually, I'm putting these all in my Substack, so you could go on over there and grab them. It's too much for a Rumble description. I'll run out of characters. But this is this full 128-page report that I've been combing through. And there's so many interesting details in here that even I hadn't looked at originally. Okay, so going back in time a little, Epstein's assigned right pretty close to his arrest to the Special Housing Unit, the SHU, at the MCC. Okay. Then he, on July 9th, typo, on July 9th, the MCC psychological staff conducts a formal suicide assessment on Epstein, and they determine that he did not meet the criteria for a psychological diagnosis. While in MCC, this is a quote from the report, while in the MCC, New York, Epstein was screened on numerous occasions by psychological staff, including a formal suicide assessment on July 9th. In the evaluations, he denied having thoughts of or a history of attempted suicide. So he's making it clear, I am not suicidal. I am not suicidal. And I kind of believe that account because, well, first of all, it's the official record. It does them no good to be truthful, but it seems like they were. And he said he was not suicidal. Now, you would think if the psychology people were in on his death, they would say, well, he said he was suicidal. But it could be that they didn't put him on suicide watch because they were understaffed at the time. And by including him saying, I'm not suicidal in the report, they have an excuse. They could say, well, we weren't sure. He said he wasn't. So, okay. The psychological staff determined Epstein did not meet the criteria for a psychological diagnosis. That's on page I of that report. And you know what, guys? Let me do this so you can follow along. I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to put it in the chat for you, okay? And then you can see right what I'm reading from. Because I never want you to take my word for it. All right, popping that in the chat now. Okay, I think you all can see that. Good. All right. So it should have popped up in all your chats. If not, what you can do is just go to, I use the archive pages because I like to go to the oldest archive page, but you can go to oig.justice.gov, or you can actually just Google the name of the report right there. If you just Google OIG Jeffrey Epstein, it should come right up. It's a report 23085. I do always go into the properties because I want to see when it was written. This was created on June 23rd, 2023 at 2:31 p.m. This is 2 years after, 3 years after, 4 years after his death, almost 4 years after his death, is when they completed this review. Okay, and so what had happened was after Epstein was found dead, it was a major screw-up, obviously, or it was by design. That's a theory, so we're not going to explore it. Officially, it was a major screw-up, but only 2 people really got disciplined for it, the 2 guards that were on duty. Now, by my count, I saw about 3 or 4 guards on duty, but the 2 guards that falsified their half-hour checks, they actually didn't check on Epstein. It seems like they're the only ones that got disciplined. The OIG report, in a nutshell, has a ton of details, but they're basically saying, okay, look, we've identified everything, we're going to fix it, including the cameras, which I still don't know if they're fixed. But always go to the properties on that and always get a snapshot of the properties and always download these when you find them and always archive them on the Wayback Machine. Okay, so he's assigned there. They decide he's not suicidal. Okay, so now July 23rd is a significant date. Okay, this is big. At 1:27 a.m., Epstein is either attacked, these are my words, is either attacked or attempts suicide while housed in the SHU with an inmate, with a cellmate. Okay. Now, this is really interesting because let me read right from the report. On July 23rd at 1:27 a.m., correctional officers responded to Epstein's SHU cell where they found Epstein with an orange cloth around his neck. That appeared to be part of the prison clothes. Epstein's cellmate told officers Epstein tried to hang himself. Medical staff examined Epstein, observed friction marks and superficial reddening around his neck and on his knee, and placed him on suicide watch. Bureau of Prisons, or BOP, policy requires that inmates identified as suicide risks be placed on suicide watch until no longer at imminent risk. The BOP uses a less restrictive monitoring form, psychological observation, for inmates who are stabilizing but not yet ready to return to a housing unit, whatever that means. Now, just 24 hours later, on July 24th, Epstein is removed from suicide watch but remains on psychological evaluation. And then he accused his cellmate of trying to kill him, and he later recanted. Listen to this. This is from the report. Right here, just so you know where I'm at. Epstein was removed from suicide watch on July 24th, but remained under psychological observation until July 30th. Epstein first told MCC New York staff he thought his cellmate had tried to kill him. But later, he said that he did not know what occurred and did not want to talk about how he had sustained his injuries. Remember, he had the bruising around the neck, the knee, everything. Epstein also later asked if he could be housed with the same cellmate. Love your comments on that one, because that one I've been mulling over all day and I can't figure out, did they just put that in the report? Did he actually say that? We won't know. Another inmate housed on the same SHU tier told the OIG that he heard Epstein's cellmate call for assistance, and that Epstein's cellmate told him that Epstein had tried to hang himself from the bunk bed ladder. By the way, Epstein's like was 6'1" at the time. Those bunk beds are like way shorter than him, so I don't even know how he killed himself, supposedly. Disciplinary charges against Epstein for alleged self-mutilation or attempted suicide were not sustained due to insufficient evidence. Okay, so they have insufficient evidence that he tried to commit suicide or self-mutilate himself. Does that mean they have sufficient evidence that someone else tried to hurt him? So despite the fact that the prison had insufficient evidence for self-mutilation charges against Epstein, they, on the 23rd, after the 23rd incident, the psychology department determined Epstein needed to be housed with an appropriate cellmate. And on July 30th, it sent an email to over 70 MCC New York employees informing them of this requirement. The warden at the time told the OIG that he selected a new cellmate for Epstein in consultation with the Bureau of Prisons executive leadership. That inmate remained Epstein's cellmate until August 9th. Okay, let's look at your comments. Now it's time to chat. All right, so I think the change is due. Okay, so Steve Ladner says, you need to cry about the Epstein case and get it out of your system because it's cut and dried. Well, if it's cut and dried for you, I'm not sure why you're here, because it's certainly not cut and dried for me, but, you know, investigate it and, you know, please make it cut and dried for me. It'd save me the work. I'd appreciate it. Welcome, by the way. Steve Ladner says, I live a few blocks from the Rio Grande and watched Border Patrol agents facilitate an invasion for a paycheck and pension, and you think the government... Okay, well, actually, I'm not even talking about the government's role in protecting. I think their job is to protect us. That's what we pay taxes for. I'm more of the spirit of protect our borders, put out our fires, arrest our criminals type of protection. But yeah, no, that's actually the contract. That's why you pay taxes. to get a certain level of protections from the government. Absolutely. Autumn, welcome. I think the timing is funny since King Bibi has been buddying up with Trump. If Epstein was Mossad, MI6, CIA, it means intel agencies run the president, not the president running intel agencies. I could talk on the intel agencies part. I do find the timing very interesting with Netanyahu coming to town and then this case being shut down. It's hard to ignore. And we'll explore that in the near future. As far as like if Epstein was Mossad, MI6, CIA, it means intel agencies run the president. Okay, so first of all, most of the intel agencies, and as you know, I have a background with intel agencies for almost 3 decades, they tend to share assets or platforms. So let's say Jeffrey Epstein was running a blackmail ring. I believe he'd have to get bankrolled to set it up the way he did, because let's face the facts. 1977, he started his little company. He went from a college dropout to teaching at the Dalton School. It was Barr's father that actually got him the job, William Barr's father. And then all of a sudden he's fabulously, I mean, insanely wealthy, and friends with everyone, connected with everyone. He seemed to have no door he couldn't get through. So let's say his job was to blackmail people. It seems to me, based on the variety of people allegedly on the list, and on the list that we saw and on the black book that we have access to, he was hitting a lot of different countries, a lot of different people, a lot of different industries, science, academics, the financial world. So he had, if he was recording these things and he was blackmailing people, it's very likely that he was a pay-to-play type of guy. So, for instance, a platform is something that, in the intel speak, a platform would be like a privately owned bank. So let's say I own the Acme Bank, okay, and the CIA approaches me, or MI6, or Mossad, and they'll say, hey, we want to run some money through your bank. I'll say, sure, great. Let's get started. I'm a platform. I'm facilitating the logistics of their operation. My bank isn't spying on anyone. I'm just moving money. Now other countries are going to come along. They're going to say, hey, I heard from our Five Eyes buddy over there that you can launder some good money. Can we use it too? It'd be like, sure, let me run it by them. If they're okay with it, we're good. That's how it works. And I've seen meetings where there's a platform with a platform owner, and there's multiple countries at the table, and they're all paying a lot of money to be at that table and to use that platform. So think of a platform kind of like a car wash, or think of a platform kind of like an airport. Or actually a great example. A platform is a lot like that hotel on John Wick, okay, where they all have different missions, they all have different bosses, they all have different agendas. But if they're in the club, they can use that platform for a hefty price. So if he was a blackmail platform, I could see multiple countries using that. And then the danger of that type of platform and running that kind of platform is you might get used to go against the enemy of this country, and then all of a sudden the next administration, those countries are friends. Well, now you've got to go. So that, I know that creates a lot more leads, but that's how the intel platforms work. We don't have direct evidence that he was working for intel agencies or as an asset for intel agencies. I don't think he was ever a direct employee of an intel agency, because he'd be forced to deliver pizzas as a second job, because GS-13 just isn't going to buy you an island. But he is the type of guy that would be used as an asset or a platform. He's got influence, he's got reach, or he was groomed into that position by Mossad, let's just say, just because of Maxwell's associations. And they cultivate him, and they get him the connections, they get him the money, and they get They get buy-in from other countries, and that's where all the money comes from. That's how these things work. A lot of times, actually most of the time, assets, I mean, never, like, will go to, let's say it's a CIA asset. They never go to headquarters. They're never seen. They actually have code names within the agency that go on the reports. You know, I'll make one up. It'll be like, if I'm writing a report, it'll be like, so I met with, you know, MC Crackerjacks on the 9th of December. We had a great meeting, paid him his money. He's doing well. Okay. But you'll never see like a name on an intel report. There's always, it's a pseudo. So that's that. All right. So the other thing is, so they never, the way it works is, let's say the CIA is going to recruit an asset. Let's say that asset is someone that owns a big media platform, like news media. They're not going to invite the guy to the CIA and say, hey, come on over here. First of all, someone at that level is going to say, go pound sand, because you go to them. They don't go to you. As powerful as people think the CIA is, remember, the people they recruit sometimes at a certain level are much more powerful. Okay, and they're happy to have recruited them. So what they'll do is they'll go and they'll get a meeting with the lawyers, and then the lawyers say, so what do you want to do? And then, you know, the agency person will pretend to be like an investor or something like that, even though everyone at the table knows he's not. And they'll say, well, we can do some work together. It's just like a real business meeting. It's like a real business relationship with first world assets. In the third world, it's a little different. Sometimes you can pay them a 6-pack of beer and some cut, and they'll do whatever you want. But the point is, at that level, you're going to be going, meeting, having a deal, and then money's going to flow through a series of cutout banks that go through a series of islands, and then things start rolling. That's how that works. So yeah, I mean, I'm not really answering or addressing your point, Autumn, but what I am saying is that I wouldn't get stuck on it's this agency or this agency or this agency. At that level, it tends to be multiple countries, multiple agencies. Can you use this guy? Yes, we can. I mean, look at Curveball that led to the Iraq War. That was an asset given to it. That was the guy that said they were making the yellow cake and all that. Curveball was actually a German asset, and the Germans came to us and said, hey, you know, we don't really trust this guy, but if you want him, you can use him. And it's even like with satellites, okay, with like signals intelligence. You know, they'll be like, hey, you know, 589, whatever, we got some room on this. Do you want to take over? Yeah, I'll take over coverage of that. That's how it's all shared. So, you know, I would caution people not to think it's this or this agency or this agency or this country or this country. It's probably multiple countries, multiple agencies, if at all. The other thing that Autumn, I've talked to you about, but I don't know if I've talked to the rest of the audience about, be careful as well that something that might look like CIA or FBI or God knows what else might have the same pattern of those operations. So for instance, if you see a movement gets subverted, okay, like a activist movement, and it has all the hallmarks of the FBI or the CIA, just right down to the type of earpieces they're using, don't automatically assume it's government. And the reason I say this is because in the height of the war on terror, enduring freedom, whatever you want to call it, there's a great book that came out, and I lived in DC and I was working in the intel community at that time. But at the height of that, probably 2009, I'd say, from 2003, probably 2011, there were so many top secret clearances with all the caveats that there was a book that came out by the two Washington Post journalists back when the Washington Post was doing okay journalism. It was never great. But the book was really good because they had a book, and it's called Top Secret America. And there were so many top secret clearances that were issued after 9/11 that they estimated that there were, for every 2.5 people in the Virginia, Northern Virginia, Maryland, DC metro area, for every 2.5 people there was one clearance. So basically, almost every other person had a clearance. It was insane. And trust me, they're not joking, because everyone had a clearance. Every building seemed to be owned by the DIA or the CIA or the DOE has a massive intelligence apparatus. HHS has a huge one since 2014. So yeah, it could be someone who's left the intelligence community and got hired on by a law firm, or got hired on by one of the many contractors that run most of DC. For instance, Ridge Global, formed by Tom Ridge, who was the first DHS secretary. Or there's another one, the Chertoff Group, formed by Michael Chertoff. I actually did an interview with them for my little company where they kind of put me on their roster. And they'll use PIs and everything like that to go do part of a job. And they're actually doing it for clients and lawyers, for their clients through lawyers. Okay, so the lawyer of a big client will come and meet with the Chertoff Group and say, hey, we need some people to do this. And then they reach down to subcontractors and they say, okay, we need you to do this. And you get one slice of that. It's one little independent contractor agreement. It says, go do stationary surveillance on this building, report on anyone that goes in or out. That's it. That's all you know. And they have 4 other teams doing 4 other parts of that job. Now, to the casual observer who might run into that, they might say, man, that looks like the FBI over there. Man, that looks like the CIA. I used to work with those guys. And maybe they were. But if I go and do surveillance, or I go and do a job, it's going to have a certain flavor because that's what I did for 30 years. So always remember that. It's also the reason why I would get hired to do things like competitive intelligence or anything. So, all right, so just wanted to put that out there. All right, and thanks, Autumn, for coming in. Sorry, guys, I'm a little out of it. I don't know why. Probably because I was doing this all night. Okay, Sin-O, hey, good to see you. Thanks for your show. Always enjoy hearing your breakdowns. Good to see you back, Sin-O. Steve Ladner. I hope Naomi has Shelley Luther back on the show in the near future because she's the real deal. Shelley Luther, drop a link, Steve. I will mention that to Naomi. I don't know who Shelley Luther is, but I will definitely mention that to her. Thanks. Bondi was AG in Florida when Epstein was doing his sex trafficking in Florida. I think you're right. I don't think she was the AG. Now, Autumn, are you talking about 2005 she was the AG? I guess she could have been. I haven't, it's in my notes somewhere, but I'm trying to stay on track. But if you got those dates, yeah, please drop a link or just shoot me an email. You know my email. And I know she was, and yeah, I've been trying to pull all her case files and anything involved with Epstein, but I've also been pulling, and I don't want to get off track, but guys, definitely look at the Ballard Partners list, okay, for Pam Bondi. Let's do a quick sidebar on that, but first, before I do, I have to thank my sponsors, because otherwise I can't do the show, or I can do it, but I'll just get way skinnier because I'll have nothing to eat. The way our sponsors work as well, because there was a conspiracy theory on this, it's affiliate marketing. So anytime you buy something, we get like a small percentage of that sale, and that's pretty much how it works. That being said, we only sell products we use. Okay, so that's why I'm not always promoting a ton of different products. We actually had a company recently, it just came on, and the firm that matches us with companies, like, here's the ad reads for this company. I looked at the company name and I was like, that seems like a fake company, and sure as shit it was. And so I was like, no, I'm not going to read that, not going to promote that. So I actually do my own due diligence on every company that we promote. And so the companies I promote, part of that due diligence, I use our products. So the first one is Native Path. Okay, and Native Path, you can see it rolling on the bottom there. Native Path, I use the Native Hydrate electrolyte mix. It's like amino acids. I drink that every morning. It's, I actually have some in my cup right here, and I mix it with some watermelon. Delicious, like Gatorade, except it's way healthier, and it just fills you up in the morning. You wake up tired and sleepy and dehydrated because you've been asleep for 8 hours. Native Hydrate just spruces you right up and throughout the day because it's packing in those amino acids that you're not getting. The other product that they have is their collagen. and collagen peptides. Collagen is just something you need. It's like the mortar for your body. Okay. And it actually has 8 grams of protein too, which I didn't know, which is nice. And it's a tasteless, odorless powder. It's a byproduct of cows, and you put it in, I put it in coffee, I put it in my shakes in the morning, and I do collagen all the time. I love collagen. And I have way less aches and pains because I'm 51 now, and I was starting to get those weird aches and pains, you know, and anyone in this age group, or if you're nearing 50 or over 50, you know, you go from like hopping out of bed in the morning to waking up with a sprained ankle, and you don't even know how you got a sprained ankle. Collagen really, really fixes that because your body stops producing collagen at about 28 years old. So you have to replace that stuff. So again, think of it like you're like sealing the basement, you know, it cracks, you got to put more sealant in there. If you just let it keep cracking, it's going to crack apart. That's what collagen is, just kind of holds everything together. Not really a scientific explanation of collagen, but I'll tell you what, it works. And I know it works because I don't feel the difference when I'm using it because I use it every day, but I sure feel the difference when I forget to bring collagen on a trip with me, as I've relayed in many of these. And now when I travel, I have a Ziploc bag with you know, a collagen serving a day for every day I'm on that trip. Mix it with milk, mix it with coffee, whatever you want to do. Naomi actually puts it in things she bakes, which is kind of cool. So you want to go to nativehydrate.com/dailyclout, or go to nativepath.com/dailyclout. You're going to get a big discount with that. And Native Path is going to call us and say, hey, thanks. People seem really happy. And you'll see their testimonials. We've had their CEO on the show many times. He's a great guy and believes in his product, and you're going to feel a lot better. And I want to know what you think too of that. So I'm always promoting that. And honestly, I would promote them if they weren't an affiliate sponsor, because I would promote collagen, and there's like the best around. The other one I want to talk about is, where'd it go? Oh yeah, sorry. There's the collagen one. All right, we'll come back to the Wellness Company, our other sponsor, after I take more of your comments. Takes us a while to warm up, guys, I know, but once you get warmed up, it gets cool. All right, let me drink my Native Path. Okay. All right, so Steve Ladner. People that can buy and sell islands, amuse themselves, are not concerned about laws and rules. Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because you're right. They're not. And I think that's why he was so cocky in all of these trials. He knew he'd be bailed out. You can buy your way out of so many things these days, so I totally agree with you. Mar-a-Lago is based in my hometown, LOL. You're in Michigan, aren't you? God, I can't wait to set up a call-in show. It's going to be a lot better. By the way, guys, follow Anti-Corrupt. She's great. Anti-Corrupt, if you pop your ex profile up there, way people can find you. She's doing fantastic research. She is going to be on the show. She was supposed to come on the show 2 weeks ago. I had to go to, I went to a wedding in England of the actor Lawrence Fox and his beautiful wife Elizabeth. They got married. He's public enemy #1 over there because, God forbid, he believes in free speech. Real warrior, warrioress, and really, really happy to have them as friends in my life. And it was the wedding was performed by Dr. Calvin Robinson, another incredible freedom fighter, and another really good friend, and many, many other people were over there. So they're all asleep right now, but it was a great trip. We really enjoyed it. Not a big fan of England. I don't like driving on the other side of the road. Haven't driven a stick shift since I was 25, and hadn't slept, so I was on the wrong side of the road with the stick shift with no sleep. That was a hellacious 2-hour drive. And there's just nowhere to park, and they just literally, it's like such a nanny state. It's insane over there. We'll get into that on another show. Let me see. Is he still alive? Is Epstein still alive? Well, that question has come up. I've seen no evidence to say to the contrary. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see for sure. YouTuber said Epstein Ranch is still being used in New Mexico. Hey, Digibabe Nomad, I know who you are. Welcome back. If you can post that YouTube link, I would definitely look at it. I'd like to hear who's using it. I know it got sold. I think the Palm Beach one got demolished, which is weird. But yeah, please repost it. Reza reposted this stream. Hey, Reza, thank you. I appreciate that. Welcome, and good to have you. Okay. Don Johnson, good to see you back. Hey now. Hey now. Marianne reposted the stream. Thanks, Marianne. I really appreciate that. You guys are awesome. I really, really appreciate it. Okay, so we're supposed to believe... Okay, come on. We're supposed to believe everything the DOJ says now? No. No. But what you're... Okay, so... And I know what you're talking about when I said, this is what we know. No. I'm not saying believe it. I'm saying that's what we have. Okay, so if we look at what's on the screen here, I put it in quotes here, right? I'm not saying that's true. I'm saying that's truly what they put on their official report. And why is that important? Well, it's important because I think in this report, they were trying to be so thorough, they actually gave out too much details if they were trying to hide something. But no, I mean, the whole point of this is to figure out if who's telling the truth and who's not. I think we all can agree, just it's all our opinion, it's not a fact, but it's very strong opinion based on common sense that a lot of people are not telling the truth in this case. But don't misread my being carefully objective for thinking the DOJ is someone I trust, because trust me, you know my family's history and my own history, you know I don't trust them and they don't trust me. So you know, me and my wife come from very different backgrounds, I'll just put it that way. But the point is, yeah, so what we're doing, this is intel, right? So we collect everything we can and we read through it, because how someone messages anything is good information as well, as you'll see. So let's continue on and I'll take more comments in a bit. Yeah, I agree. And I don't have the other coroner report, but I totally agree. Let's get to it. Holy cow. Yes, sorry. I got off on a tangent. I haven't slept in 3 days looking at this stuff. All right, so here we go. Okay, so what are the things we have, right? We have, in this report, they say, after accusing his cellmate of trying to kill him, he then requested the same roommate. That one is definitely one that needs to be highlighted, because that seems like a whole load of bullshit to me. Now, we'll never know, because, you know, dead men don't speak, but that really stood out at me. Like, unless he's lost his mind, who would do that? Okay. So there's a million things we should look at with that, but let's keep going. So again, they put him on the psychological watch and getting him the special cellmate, even though they determined he didn't try to self-mutilate, which indicates that they didn't think he was suicidal. That's how I read that. So these are my key takeaways. 1, why was he only on suicide watch for 24 hours after it was believed that he tried to commit suicide? Okay, and the reason why is because that roommate stayed with him for 3 more days. So obviously they didn't think the roommate was trying to kill, or the cellmate was trying to kill him. Or another thing that we have to explore is maybe that's why they left him in the cell, because they knew he tried to kill him. They wanted to give him another shot at it. Why not? Okay, why did the MCC decide to leave the sane inmate in a cell with Epstein for 3 days? If it was unclear if Epstein had attempted suicide or he'd been attacked, that's a huge question. Huge question. Why did they let this guy stay with him for 3 days? And by the way, I've had family members in prison. I'm sure I hope none of you have, but if you have, or you have friends that have been in prison. Actually, my good friend Dexter Taylor is in prison right now for legally assembling guns in his apartment. He's been on the show a few times via Secure US. One thing that doesn't happen in prison is your request doesn't mean shit. Okay? You can't say, I want this roommate, but not this one. It doesn't matter. Even if you're Epstein and people are trying to kill you, okay, or the world hates you, or you're a pedophile in prison, as you all know, that's the lowest of the low. Of course, he had a lot of money, so he could have prepaid a lot of people off. I'm pretty sure he knew he was going to get arrested. We don't know. Those are good leads. But number 3 key takeaway for just that section is, why did MCC's psychology department determine Epstein needed to be housed with an appropriate cellmate? How do they define appropriate? Why was the psych department making the determination if there was insufficient evidence that Epstein had tried to commit suicide, aka self-mutilation? This is what I do when I go through these. I highlight and then I ask myself questions. I call them, and these will become, as you'll see at the end of this investigation, we break down this big mess into questions like this, and then you start answering each little question. Okay, it's like eating an elephant one bite at a time. Instead of trying to say it was this country or this that was behind, well, that's hard to do. Okay, that's a lot of moving parts. And I'm sure when you guys look at this, you're like, God, where do I start? Because that's where I am, even with all my experience. I'm always like, God, where do I start with this? So that's what I do. I make a timeline, and then questions like this pop out at me. Okay, we move on. August 8th, 2019. This is where it gets weird, guys. This is where it gets really weird. And this is from the report, that 128-page report. August 8th, 2019, U.S. Marshals Service notifies numerous MCC-NY employees that Epstein's cellmate was being transferred to another facility on August 9th. Wait, what? Like, what? Are you... Why? We need to find out who the cellmate was. Maybe someone has. But the U.S. Marshals Service notifies numerous MCC-NY employees that Epstein's cellmate was being transferred to another facility. That line, let's break that down really quickly. This is very important to break down. First of all, why would the U.S. Marshals be contacting employees directly? Unless this is the report's way of saying contacted the Bureau. But it doesn't... This something about this doesn't ring right. How were they contacting so many different employees? Why were they contacting employees directly? This report does not indicate that it was going through any sort of chain of command. It just says what it says, and here's the quote. On August 8th, the U.S. Marshals Service sent 2 emails notifying numerous MCC New York staff that Epstein's cellmate was being transferred to another facility on August 9th. What amazing timing. However, no action was taken to ensure Epstein was assigned another roommate. That's another important point too, guys. Because look, you just had the psychology department say it was very important to get the appropriate cellmate, but then all of a sudden it's not. All right, so let's kind of chew on this for a second. What does that mean? What could that mean? Like, now it doesn't matter that he has an appropriate cellmate. Is that because they were going to bring someone in who's better, who could get the job done? Is that because they wanted him to commit suicide? I mean, whatever was happening here, remember the name of this report is CARE, is in the title, the care of prisoners. They didn't care what happened to Epstein. Personally, I don't either, but I kind of wish he was still alive because there's a lot of answers that died with him. So they say, all right, so we got the U.S. Marshals moving his cellmate on death eve, the night before he gets killed or committed suicide or gets dead. Let's just put it that way. Weird coincidence. And it gets better. And again, don't forget, this is from this report. Okay? Official report went through the OIG and was validated at the very top levels of the Department of Justice. All right? Okay, August 9th, 2019. Same day. Epstein meets with his attorneys at the prison and signed a last will and testament. Whoa. So the 2 days before he dies or gets dead, he signs a will and testament. Now, it says right here, on August 8th, Epstein met with his attorneys at the prison, as he had on prior occasions, and signed a new last will and testament. MCC New York officials did not learn about the new will until after Epstein's death. There's another key word here that I just caught now. I don't know what it means, but I notice here they say the new will. Now, if anyone knows the prison system, I admittedly don't know it that well. I will. Were they aware that he had an old will? Was the Bureau of Prisons, do you make a will when you go to prison? He wasn't on death row. So why did they say the new will? It indicates to me that they had knowledge of an existing will. This could be a slip. Okay, this could be a slip. So I'm actually going to highlight that. And guys, by the way, I'm going to be building on the same document, and I'm publishing this on my Substack. It is free subscriptions. However, this takes a lot of time. So if you have any ability to get a small subscription, I really appreciate it. I'm going to do it anyways if you don't. But if you do a free subscription or share it, and like people retweeting the show, I really appreciate that too. But yeah, this will all be on Substack, and I will take this document here and embed it in the Substack as well. All the links are live. I've archived every link I looked up that wasn't archived, just so you know, on the Wayback Machine. All right, August 9th. This is the day before his death. Epstein's new cellmate. This is my summary here. Epstein gets a new cellmate, 2,000 pages of documents from Maxwell's civil litigation are unsealed, and Epstein is allowed to make an unauthorized call to his mother, who'd been dead since 2004. All right, so the following day, August 9th, Epstein's cellmate was transferred to another facility, and he was not assigned a new cellmate. Additionally, on that date, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit unsealed approximately 2,000 pages of documents in the civil litigation involving, I always mispronounce it, Ghislaine Maxwell, who was later convicted in December 2021 of conspiring with Epstein to sexually abuse minors over the course of a decade. The documents contain substantial derogatory information about Epstein, the ones that were unsealed, and there is extensive media coverage of information in the unsealed documents. Also on August 9th, after meeting at the prison with his lawyers, MCC's New York staff allowed Epstein to make, in violation of their own policy, an unrecorded, unmonitored telephone call before he was returned to his special housing unit cell. Although Epstein said he was calling his mother, in actuality, he called someone with whom he allegedly had a personal relationship. Later in the report, you'll see he somehow called Belarus. Someone in Belarus. At approximately 8 p.m. on August 9th, SHU inmates were locked in their cells for the night, including Epstein, who was without a cellmate. A search of, and guys, I'm sorry, I misspoke earlier. He didn't get a new cellmate. He lost his cellmate. A search of Epstein's cell following his death revealed Epstein had excess prison blankets, linens, and clothing in his cell, and that some had been ripped to create nooses. Only one SHU cell search was documented on August 9th, and it was not of Epstein's cell. BOP records did not indicate when Epstein's cell was last searched. OIG also found that SHU staff did not conduct any 30-minute rounds after about 10:40 p.m. On August 9th, and that none of the required SHU inmates counts were conducted after 4 p.m. on August 9th. Count slips and round sheets were falsified to show that they had been performed. So these guys basically said, yeah, we did them. They were just sitting on their night shift, not checking anything. Okay. So that's August 9th. Now, I haven't done this analysis yet because I ran out of time today, but I'm comparing these time hacks in the report to the time hacks on the video that they released, even though we know the video was doctored according to Wired magazine, but we got to roll with that for now. Okay. So on August 8th, 2019, U.S. Marshals, we already did that. August 10th, Jeffrey Epstein's found in his cell. Okay. Now, let me pull up the report, because there's things in there that I didn't get a chance to get on this screen yet. So we're just going to pull that up. Give me a second. It's just very interesting, the stuff that's in this report that it's, so many people have not looked at, or, I didn't even think to look at it. All right, but let me just call this up on my new drive here. Okay. All right. Sorry, guys. I will be better prepared next time. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to pull up the original report. I downloaded the oldest archived version of it because I don't trust them not to change things in any of our government offices, no matter who's in charge. And here we go. Here it is. All right. So got the Epstein files, Mangione, and there it is. Lots of PDFs. Yep. Okay. All right. So let me pull this right up on the screen for you. Here we go. Okay, so let me get that. Okay, share the screen. All right, there it is. Okay, so here is.
You have to stay healthy and well at times like this. You know that I often have suffered from mobility issues, and now I don't. Part of my lifestyle is Native Path collagen. So Native Path's collagen formula is made with ingredients that are scientifically developed to increase bone mineral density, support tissue recovery, reduce wrinkles, enhance hair thickness, and strengthen nails. Who wouldn't want more collagen with all of these benefits? So right now, when you visit getnativepath.com/dailyclout, you can stock up on Native Path collagen for up to an incredible 45% off today, plus free shipping. Every order comes with a 365-day money-back guarantee. You can try it risk-free today. It is a single ingredient formula with no fillers, additives, or artificial sweeteners, and it's third-party tested for heavy metals, which makes sure that it's pure and safe. It's flavorless. You can add it to anything. I add it to my oatmeal. You can add it to coffee or smoothies. Its formula makes it more bioavailable, meaning it's absorbed more easily and mixes without clumping. And the best part is Native Path is offering amazing bundle deals, 3 or 6 packs at a fraction of the price of other brands. With over 4 million jars sold, 1 million happy customers, 8,000 5-star reviews, and a 365-day no-risk guarantee, Native Path is a trusted choice, and they offer an 800 number. You can ask any question. A real person is waiting to help. You can join a private Facebook community. I love these people. Share recipes, success stories. So that's getnativepath.com/dailyclout and start your experience of transformation today.
Reports. All right. So this is what I was just reading from. Make it as big as I can. And I'm going to put the chat down for now, just so we can all see this. Okay. There we go. Okay, so these are the events of his death. Okay, he did the last will. I just want to make sure I got all that. All right. Unmonitored phone call. Okay, on August 10th at approximately 6:30 a.m., the 2 SHU staff on duty, Noel and handler, material handler Michael Thomas, began delivering breakfast to SHU inmates. Remember that time, 6:30. This on the 10th. Noel unlocked the door to Epstein's SHU tier. When Thomas attempted to deliver breakfast to Epstein through the food slot in his locked cell door, Epstein did not respond to Thomas's verbal commands. Thomas unlocked the cell door and saw Epstein hanged. Thomas immediately yelled for Noel to get help and call for emergency medical services. Thomas told OIG when he entered Epstein's cell, Epstein had orange string, presumably from a shirt or sleeve or shirt, around his neck that was tied to the top portion of the bunk bed. Epstein was suspended from the top bunk in a near seated position with his buttocks approximately 1 inch to 1 inch and a half above the floor. Thomas said he immediately ripped the orange string from the bunkhead and Epstein's buttocks dropped to the ground. Thomas then lowered Epstein's body to the... Let me just pause for a second. I get the impression that this guy, was it Noel, was being questioned about the positioning of the body or where the body was. That's important to note because he's making a lot of details about, you know, how Epstein was positioned the way he was positioned when other people arrived. Thomas then entered, lowered body to the floor, and he began chest compressions until responding MCC New York staff members arrived approximately 1 minute later. Okay, so if they call these people, right, 1 minute later, you would assume that they're going to show up with stretchers and everything like that. Wait for it. Shortly thereafter, outside medical personnel arrived and took over their emergency response, eventually removing Epstein to a local hospital where he was pronounced dead. On August 11th, 2019, the office chief medical examiner performed an autopsy and determined, yeah, he was dead by suicide. We definitely question that one. All right. And then they go on to say it looked like suicide. They didn't have defensive wounds and all that. Okay. So here's the thing. Let's look at the video really quickly. So we're already past an hour, but I'm gonna hang in there for a few because I started late. Because I just want to wrap this section up with a look at the video, and I think that's important. So let me just call that up. Okay. So, and that, by the way, that's just the beginning of the report. There's a lot more in there. They get into details. So that's like an overview of everything. There's a lot more detail in chapters. I highly recommend everyone read it, go through it. If you're investigating this, just go through it. There's a lot of info in there. And, you know, what you'll find is when you, I'm just waiting for the video to come up, but when you dive into things like this and you tune out, you know, all the, you know, left-wing, right-wing news, the constant change, Dan Bongino's mad, Dan Bongino's not mad. When you tune all that out and you dive into the past, all of a sudden you see a lot more things that kind of dictate what's happening today. You see a lot more players. You're like, that's odd. I know that name. If you ever read comic books, as a kid, I loved comic books. I remember opening my first X-Men. It was like issue 113. I had no idea what was going on. I didn't know any of the characters. I didn't know why this guy didn't like this guy, what their powers were. But then they link you to another comic book, and then you recognize a character, and then you recognize something that happened now that you're on your 100th comic book. And it's just like this. The more of this you read, the more you can connect the dots really quickly. And read it all. It's actually not bad reading.
If you're like me and you're getting to that age at which your body sometimes just hurts all the time, please listen. Don't reach for another painkiller until you learn about this turmeric hack for pain and inflammation. You've probably already heard that turmeric is being used to fight inflammation and joint pain, but not all turmeric is created equal. Regular turmeric powder in your pantry will help you a little, but a leading pain doctor from Connecticut discovered a special turmeric extract that is 200 times more powerful than what you find in standard turmeric. And when he shared this turmeric secret with his patients, the results were extraordinary. This turmeric extract attacks pain at the source, turning it off like a light switch, so that pain not only often goes away, but stays away. Dr. Josh, the brains behind it all, has spent 20 years helping hundreds of thousands of Americans finally break free from constant aches and stiffness. And his turmeric hack has been the backbone of their success. So don't engage, if you can avoid it, with expensive surgeries, pain injections, or inefficient over-the-counter medications with side effects. Greet pain-free living. It's incredible stuff. I started taking it regularly, and I really did notice a difference. Again, you can't just take any old turmeric. If you want to learn more about Dr. Josh's turmeric secret and the exact method for how to use it in your routine, go to goldenrevive.com/dailyclout. The link is right below this video in the description. Click on it and start your journey toward a pain-free, healthier life.